Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I got crazy hair, and I'm here with Mike Barron. How you doing, Mike? How's everything?
Everything is Irie.
Oh, good, good, good. Irie, geez, that's even better than good. So, Mike and I just talked Wednesday night over on the Fourth Age with RJ. We were talking about my favorite literary characters, Captain Nemo, which takes us right into what's going on with you. What's going on with Captain Nemo and you?
Well, Captain Nemo has left the building. He's out there in sub somewhere. Uh, but he doesn't tell me where he goes. In fact,
He's not good with communication. He doesn't.
no, he only surfaces about once every 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the reason why I'm bringing up Captain Nemo is you have Captain Nemo teaming up with Sherlock Holmes in your new comic, and where is it's on Fun My Comic or
It's on Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, and Kickstarter. If you want to, uh, we got keys to every one of those platforms at baroncomics.com. Just go to baroncomics.com. You can watch the trailer, and you can also take a look at the rest of the stuff I have on sale.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up right now. Why can't I hit the correct button? I'm hitting every button but the correct button. So let's bring up your campaign, or at least your Mike Barron page. Where is it?
Yeah.
There we go. We got we got. Oh, why is Nexus popping up? Yeah, because you right next.
All right.
Here we go. Here we go. Let me get rid of everything. I got everything in the way. So here we go. We got Leviathan, Sherlock Holmes, and Captain Nemo. I tell you, man, I love these two characters.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you were saying Wednesday night that when you were a kid, you were in the Baker Street Irregulars. You were telling me about that, and I just couldn't help but picture you as a little kid with a little fake pipe blowing bubbles, solving crimes, right?
Well, this was when I was like 22 or 23.
That's right. You were never a kid. Mike was always an adult.
No, I'm still a kid. I'm still a kid, but now I have a deerstalker cap.
Oh, you know what's funny is, well, first off, today's my birthday, and I thought I was 57 years old, but my sister reminded me that I'm only 56, so I get to be 56 for 2 years. And she said, "How did you get to be old? How did you get to be an old man when you're sitting in a room filled with toys, comic books, action figures?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. You know, it happens to the best of us. It beats the alternative, I guess."
Yeah.
Oh, we got Matt Bao says he's working on his new Private American piece. Matt Bao's working for you?
I know.
That's cool.
Unsolicited. Matt's a terrific artist.
Oh yeah, Matt did a page in my comic. He did a goof on the Sea Monkeys ad. He did Sea Hippies. Freaking hysterical. It's so funny. Mike does great work. He did a couple of logos for me. I'm looking forward to seeing. He's got a comic strip coming out, Soaring Eagle. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, Mike Barron says hello. Yeah, buddy. Katie did. How you doing, Katie? Did you keep You keep saying I'm going to come on your channel, and you never invite me. Mike Barron was born 5 o'clock shadow and a mortgage. Yeah.
I'm so old I saw Hendrix.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of stuff that we didn't talk about on Wednesday. So
only everything.
Yeah, we did. We had a fun talk. Everybody asked in the chat. So I mean, let's start at the beginning over here. You got a new workout. So we got what is ludus? I can't read that. My eyes are so bad.
Ludus. It's Latin. It means the game is afoot.
Oh, perfect. And Sherlock Holmes Leviathan. So tell us about this.
Well, I've always been a Sherlock Holmes fan, as you know. About 3 years ago, I started on this Sherlock Holmes film jag. I started watching every movie and TV show I could on Sherlock Holmes until I'd seen probably 24 hours in total, and that barely scratches the surface. There's probably more Sherlock Holmes on film than anyone can watch in a lifetime, but I saw a lot of it. And my impressions were that, first of all, the BBC series starring Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes is probably the most faithful interpretation, and Jeremy Brett is the best Sherlock Holmes. Right after that, Benedict Cumberbatch in the other BBC series that came decades later and upgraded Sherlock to the 21st century. And I think it works very well. And Cumberbatch is a great Holmes too. And then of
Yeah.
course, Cecil Rathbone is the third of the greatest Sherlock Holmes actors. And not only were they great actors, but they did enough to establish their primacy in the field. There are other actors who only portrayed Holmes once or twice, like Nicole Williamson in the 7% Solution, but he was brilliant in that. Or John Neville in A Study in Terror, where Sherlock Holmes goes after Jack the Ripper. There are a number of movies where Sherlock Holmes goes after Jack the Ripper. One of them is Murder by Decree, starring Christopher Plummer as Sherlock Holmes. Not one of my favorites, but a lot of people like it.
I'm with Matt on this one. I like Cumberbatch, and I can't think of the other guy's name who played Watson. I like them a lot. They had a good chemistry, but the guy who played Moriarty got on my nerves.
Oh, I thought he was terrific.
And I really didn't like when Watson's wife became super agent. You know, this dumpy woman became super. I was like, we're bordered on fiction, science fiction at this point.
Well, the graphic novel is a good dose of Victorian science fiction.
Oh yeah, well, we were talking about how one of the things people don't realize about Captain Nemo. Again, I could talk about Captain Nemo all night. He's I got Captain Kirk, Odin, and Santa Claus, and Captain Nemo are like my top four favorite fictional characters of all time. Although, if you're a little kid, Santa Claus is real. But I think he never really gets portrayed very well, at least in recent movies, and they forget that he's a genius. And you're right. You brought it up Wednesday. You said that the Nautilus was nuclear powered, and I was like, I don't want to say anything because I'm like, I'm not going to argue it. But then I looked it up, and it's really the only solution that it was that Jules Verne was describing nuclear power before those words were coined.
Well, you know that there's a new TV series called Nautilus, which is based on the life of Captain Nemo, and it looks incredible. It looks incredible from the previews.
It does. It looks so good.
I'm sending you the link right now in the private chat.
Yeah, we played that you were on a couple of weeks ago. We played that, and one of I'm a big fan of Captain Nemo. I read the novel, and then in The Mysterious Island, Captain Nemo shows up. Spoiler alert for like 150-year-old book. He shows up at the end of the book and rescues everybody, and he tells his life story. You know, he was kind of like a cipher in his own book that he only gleaned information from. Now I can't think of the main character's name. The character Aronson.
What was the name of the book?
The Mysterious Island.
Yeah, I haven't read that one.
Oh, it's a big, thick book, and apparently there was like a big trend at the time of like fantasy survival books. Like these people, they land a bunch of a ship goes down somewhere in the South Pacific, and they live on this island, and there's everything, and they just describe like they make wires, they make telegraphs. One guy is a shipwright. He just spends 3 years making a boat. You know, one guy's a farmer, one guy's an engineer. Like they just have the perfect mix of skills to survive and thrive. And then they get a monkey that they train to like gather. You know, it's like but there's this like mysterious force that like one of them gets sick and then they find medicine. You know, so they're like they think there's like an angel on the island. Turns out it's spoiler Captain Nemo, and then he basically tells me, "We got to get off this island. The volcano's going to erupt." You know, and it's the island where he built the Nautilus because this island has all the world's resources. I just ruined the book for you.
No, well, I'll start with the movie. You didn't ruin the book. You know, people always say, "Oh, don't tell me, spoiler alert. Oh, you told me how it would end. I'll never go watch it." Well, that's not true because we read a book, we read a novel, we love the novel, and we hear they're making a movie out of it. We can't wait to go see the movie, even though we know what happens.
Right. I'll take my wife to a movie from a book that I watch, and I sit there and I'm like torn between watching her face and watching the screen to see if she's enjoying it. I'm like, you're not enjoying this the right way. Pay attention. This is the good part to enjoy. So yes, I agree. Now, could you watch the same movie over and over and over again?
Oh yeah,
enjoy it. Yeah, I got a few movies like Goodfellas. If I walk by a TV and Goodfellas is on, it's like a magnet. That's
one of them.
Yeah, and next thing I know, it's like 20 minutes of like I'm almost like mouthing the words. Yeah.
The Godfather.
The Godfather's a good one. Yeah. Taxi Driver. Just about any Martin
Love
Scorsese.
Taxi Driver.
Yeah. Oh man, I could quote Taxi Driver, but then I'll get kicked off of YouTube.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't see anybody else around here.
Did you see The King of Comedy?
Oh yeah, I love The King of Comedy.
Isn't that a great movie?
Yeah.
You know, oh my god.
And you know, the first Joker movie is just a bad replay of The King of Comedy.
Yes, that's what I was leading to. If you watch King of Comedy, the sequel is the Joker, but with Joaquin Phoenix playing the Rupert Pupkin.
Right, and Robert De Niro playing Jerry Lewis.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did you know that they asked Johnny Carson to play himself in that movie, and his agents told him no, don't do it, because spoiler alert, you saw what happened to the character in the in the Joker movie. Yeah, I love that movie. That is such a good movie. My wife likes the CBS series Elementary. Which one is that?
It stars Lucy Liu as Dr. Watson.
I prefer the Star Trek Next Generation Moriarty. Yeah, me too. I read only a few Sherlock Holmes stories, and none of them had Moriarty in it. But he's typically played as an older than Sherlock, and like a little bit more like almost like not sedate, but quieter. So when I saw the one from the Benedict Cumberbatch, I can never say his name. He was like super animated and out of control.
I thought there was a brilliant portrayal.
Yeah, the line that always got me is when Sherlock Holmes goes, people are going to die, and Moriarty screams, "That's what people do." It actually scared me. I don't get scared a lot watching TV, but that actually frightened me. There's a Harry Hasson movie of the Mysterious Island. All right, you know what I'm doing after me and Mike are done talking. I really didn't know that.
Well, I'm going to look for that too. I need to see that.
I'm
leaving. She's leaving for a party.
Bye.
Have fun at your party. She's going to my birthday party.
Huh? What did he say?
You're going to his birthday party.
My birthday. Yeah, Lucy
But
Liu.
she's promised not to pick up any strange men.
And I'm pretty strange, so you're safe. It's funny because me and my friend, I'll go to my buddy's house till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning playing role-playing games. And one of my wife's friends goes, like, he's out till like 4 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night. My wife's like, dude, he's in the basement with a bunch of nerds. Like, he's gonna come home with Funyun breath. He ain't doing anything wrong.
I didn't go to bed before 2 a.m. for most of my life. Well, I mean, that was a long time ago. Most of my younger life. And now I seldom stay up past 9.
Yeah. My mom said I was born at 12 noon. And she goes, and you never woke up without a struggle before 12 noon. And now with the job, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning every morning. And like on Saturdays, I'll wake up at 6 in the morning. But I was out of work for 4 months with a broken neck. I was still waking up at noon. I reverted back to that child. I know as soon as I retire, I'm a night owl again. Like I'll be up till 4 o'clock in the morning, reading, doing stuff. I just love the nightlife. I love to boogie.
Down at the disco.
So, you said what inspired this? I think you said it, and I kind of
it just popped in my head. After watching all those Sherlock Holmes movies, I thought, I could write a killer Sherlock Holmes story with Captain Nemo. And it just like that. And one of the reasons is that all these great characters that live on forever, and Sherlock Holmes is the most popular fictional character of all time, they all were born in a Victorian period, a Victorian explosion of great literature, where they all existed more or less in the same time range. Captain Nemo came out before Sherlock Holmes, but not that far before, and it's not inconceivable that they were both alive at the same time, as was Dracula.
Yeah.
Alan Quatermain.
There's a fascinating character, Alan Quatermain, and I don't think he gets the the recognition he deserves. And we were talking about Sir Richard Burton. He's directly inspired by Sir Richard Burton.
Yeah, and now you're getting me on my Philip Jose Farmer kick. Farmer was a very influential writer to me, and he created the Wold Newton universe where all these characters do coexist and interact with each other, including Sir Richard Burton, Tarzan, and Doc Savage. Only he called them Lord Tiger and Doc Caliban. And he wrote a definitive biography of Tarzan. It's called The Definitive Biography of Tarzan.
Oh, that's easy to remember. I'm writing this down because you brought this up Wednesday, and I asked you to repeat it, and I still didn't write it down. On my old man mind forgot about it.
Yeah, it's called the complete biography, and it's great because he poured over everything Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote, and he put it all together in an entertaining manner. And his own versions of those characters, being Lord Tiger and Doc Caliban, are highly entertaining. Farmer did a lot of that stuff, taking great pulp characters and recasting them in his own voice.
Have you read the Doc Savage novels?
No, I've only read the Doc Caliban.
Oh, I'm in the middle of the first Doc Savage, and while I like it, I have to admit it's just every other character in the book just exists to tell Doc Savage how cool he is.
Yeah,
and let me ask you this: what do you feel about like a Mary Sue character? Like,
I don't even know what that means. I hear it bandied about, but I just
well, first off, I have a character coming out called Mary Sue in my second issue of my comic. I'm kind of goofing on but I'm not against the concept of like the best character, like.
Well, what does it mean?
Well, the story that I heard was like in the early 70s when fan fiction was in its infancy. Some woman, her name was Mary Sue. She made a character called Mary Sue Kirk, who was the daughter of Captain Kirk. And Mary Sue Kirk was the best captain. She was the best fighter. She was the hottest chick. She was the best scientist. She was, everybody else on the Enterprise just was like, Mary Sue Kirk is the best. You know what I mean? And it was named, so it just became like a derogatory term.
Okay, it's a fictional character who's often portrayed as unrealistically perfect.
Right. Which Doc Savage, I think, fits the T. Captain Kirk kind of fits the T, but they're still great characters. Like, I'm not against the idea of a Mary Sue. Obviously a Mary Sue self-insert is a little tacky, you know what I mean? Like Bloody Red Baron goes and beats Superman in one punch. I'd read that comic actually. Doc Savage versus Shirt. That Shirt don't stand a chance. I don't think a Shirt.
It's one of the things that I have a problem with Edgar Rice Burroughs, especially John Carter of Mars, is that he creates these male ideals who are automatically superior to everyone else because they come from Earth, which has greater gravity. So there's no real physical challenge to them on Mars.
Oh, yeah. And I'll bring up your campaign in a second again. John Carter, if you remember, he had natural immunity to the telepathy of the Martians. It was almost like, dude, you're giving him... Nobody has a chance to beat this guy, but I still like those books.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't automatically dislike a Mary Sue. Like One Punch Man, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that character. The premise is he could beat any superhero with one punch, but that's the point of the character. And now he's bored.
It's a gag.
What's that? Yeah, it's a gag. It's a gag. Who's the other one that's better than everybody? We talked about Reacher briefly. That's the whole point of Reacher is what if we got a guy who's physically stronger and just smarter than everybody, and rather than he stumble up, like he kind of figures out. I read the first novel, The Killing Floor, and it was still a great book because it's not like he had magic powers that he could solve. Like you saw him detect everything and figure out everything. It was very compelling. They did a good job in the first season of the TV show.
I think I read one a while back. I'm not addicted to them like I am to some other fictional characters.
I don't get this joke. Doc Savage's Marvin, farting to draw Marvin. I don't know who that is.
And with any luck, we won't.
What about The Shadow? Have you ever read The Shadow?
No, I never have. I've read the comics that were written by Denny O'Neil and illustrated by Mike Kaluta. And I like the idea. And Denny's a good writer.
Yeah.
You should be able to take any character and make him compelling. A good writer can do that. And well, I have some of his shadow material in hardbound, and I'll have to revisit those and take a fresh look at them.
Those were my first. Well, my father liked the Shadow, so he was always talking about the Shadow radio show. But in comics, it was that Mike Kaluta hardcover with Denny O'Neil. What a beautiful comic! And I love the idea of the hero with the agents that not. Well, I guess the Shadow, they kind of do his bidding. He has that magic mind control ring, but like Captain Nemo's got a group of people that are kind of share his philosophy, and they run his ship, and they harvest his underwater tobacco and minerals that power his. I love when there's a whole team of people that work together like that. Like, I think Batman would have worked better with Chuck Dixon. He had that Hunchback character. Are you familiar with that worked on the Batman?
Bane?
What's that?
Bane?
No. Harold or Harvey. I forget.
Oh.
Harold. He had literally a hunchback who lived in the Batcave. They kind of just phased him out. I kind of like the idea that Batman pulls in, somebody else works on the car. It's kind of demeaning to see Bruce Wayne underneath the Batmobile with a monkey wrench.
Tony Grigo wants to know if I've read Don Pendleton's The Executioner. I read a couple of them back in the day, Tony, and we both know that The Punisher, which was created by Jerry Conway, is simply a rubber-stamped executioner.
Yep.
I mean, the concept, is just lifted whole from the Pendleton books and plunged down into Spider-Man. But there are a lot of those characters in fiction, as Matt points out. Remo Williams as well.
I was just about to say it. Yeah, Remo Williams, the Destroyer. In the 70s, that was like a whole genre. Chuck Dixon calls them the men's sweat magazines or whatever. They were like revenge fantasies. Charles Bronson with the
Death Wish.
Death Wish, yeah. Even Dirty Harry.
Especially Dirty Harry.
Yeah. Some person says an invincible character could work if there's humor or has a weakness. His friends and family aren't invincible.
That's true. And that's the basic problem we have with superheroes.
I can't help but comment, you got that Flash right over your shoulder. When you took over Flash, I never liked the Flash because I don't know. I just thought he was too unbeatable. He just How are you going to fight that guy? He punched you 60,000 times before you got to move. But you made him. You slowed him down. And I'm a big thing about logical weaknesses. He needed to eat, and he needed, the faster he moved, the more he ran. Yeah, he had to keep a caloric intake, and I thought that was brilliant. I really, really. I remember one of your stories. He was running across the country currying like organs for somebody that, like a child.
Heart.
Yeah, he had to stop at a diner and eat some cheeseburgers.
You just run through the drive-through.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. Clancy's No Remorse. I never read that. The book.
No, Matt, I've read a little Tom Clancy, and they were far too verbose for me. But I love the Jack Ryan character, and I especially love the series starring John Krasinski.
Eric DeGuapo, would you consider Batman to Mary Sue?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going
to. Mary Sue has to be a woman.
Well, they call him a Gary Stu if it's a man.
Right.
But I consider the newest Batman. It's boring. I like him to struggle a little bit, which brings us back to our conversation on Wednesday. I was saying I don't think I'm smart enough to write a good detective story, and you got Sherlock Holmes in your book, so is it a detective story?
There is a mystery that Holmes has to solve.
Right. I couldn't imagine Holmes not being in a mystery. What am I doing here?
When you read the mystery and his solution, you're going to laugh.
I'll bring up your campaign again. Can I play the trailer?
Please.
Sure. I'm going to play this trailer, everybody.
When a series of shipping disasters points to a mysterious sea monster, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson leave the comfort of Baker Street and board a freighter where they encounter unexpected betrayal and come face to face with the enigmatic Captain Nemo and his submarine, the Nautilus. As they delve deeper into the case, they uncover a conspiracy involving a Russian Tsar with an airship that rains destruction on unsuspecting cities. With time running out and the world on the brink of war, the heroes must use all their skills and resources to stop a massive conspiracy and prevent global conflict. From Eisner-winning writer Mike Baron and illustrator Richard Bonk, dive into the depths of adventure and unravel the mysteries of the sea with the world's greatest detective in Leviathan. Order now at baroncomics.com.
That is cool. That is pretty cool. Let's bring this back so we can see our faces. And if I scroll, okay, click here. So you could get this at Indiegogo. You could get this at Fund My Comic and Kickstarter. So you're on all three platforms.
That's right. We have 3 weeks left to go. For those who are reluctant to plunge in because it's not a superhero story, I promise you, you're going to love it. You're going to read it over and over again. You're going to resent it if somebody comes in and tries to get you to stop reading to come to dinner or whatever. And when you're done, you're either going to seal it up or you're going to give it to a friend.
Cool. I'm going to put it with 55,000 other comic books into the black hole of comics that once they go in, they never come out. A friend of mine asked me if, do you have any comics you could give me so I could give my nephew? I said, no.
Oh, come on, John.
No, I'll give him something, but he wanted my oldest Batman. I was like, thank you, you a 1940s Batman. Get out of here. Looks great. It has the Disney Nautilus. As far as I'm concerned, that was like how it was described in the book. So it's not even like the Disney Nautilus. That's like book accurate Nautilus.
Well, yeah, I mean, it might be, and I'm hoping they'll take notice and sue because then we'll get a big boost.
Yeah, there you go. What's that? The Streisand effect. Yes, Gooding was a great read. Yes, Mike Baron is the same Mike Baron who wrote Gooding. I recently heard a review about Nexus and intrigued me. Guys, Nexus is wonderful. I'm rereading Nexus. There is no other comic like Nexus because it's not the superhero book I thought. No, doesn't matter what you. If you didn't read Nexus, it's not like what you thought it is. There's nothing like it. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you want an Eisner for?
Yeah, a couple of Eisners.
Yeah,
An Inkpot, and dude won a Russ Manning Award.
nice. When I worked in the comic book store, Larry, he used to wear a Badger shirt, and because his name was
Larry, of course he did.
he used to get me to read other comics, and he forced me to get the 3 oversized. What was it? Capital comics.
Yeah, the black and white books. We're probably going to offer those next year, recolored. In fact, we're going to create a huge Nexus omnibuses. There will probably be 4 of them, massive hardbound books containing every issue.
That's cool. You also had a couple of issues with, Richard C. Meyer for Splatocom. Like, you could publish those, right? You're gonna. Like I'm trying
Yeah.
to
In fact, I have that issue myself. If anybody is interested, they can contact me. And I'll be happy to sell you one.
Bloody
The
Red Baron on Twitter.
The art is by Kelsey Shannon, who illustrated Scourge. And Kelsey is allegedly working on completing triplets. But in the meantime, I'm working on new Nexus stories with some world-class artists. I wish I could tell you who they are, but when you find out, you're going to be very excited.
Again, I reread Nexus every couple of years, and I there's just so much to it, so many twists and turns, and it's such a unique, different character. Is it superhero? Yes. Is it space opera? Yes. Is it and he's not like you think. I'm trying to bite my tongue because I have a habit of spoiling things.
Biting your tongue.
Yeah, I know you said you don't mind spoilers, but I don't want to spoil your comments. Baron, what Baron? You're very familiar with him, huh? Hey, dude. What starting point for Nexus would you recommend someone who wants to really dive into that IP?
Well, Eric, I think that any of the first 10 color issues will get her done. But really, as I wrote in the chat, I design each story to be a complete story in and of itself. I don't like to tread water. I want to entertain the reader from the first page to the last page. I don't want a wasted word or a wasted graphic anywhere in there. So you can start anywhere in any nexus that I've written, and you'll find it entertaining, and you'll want more.
Gooding was typical Mike Barron, just a great writing, enthralling from start to finish.
Thank you, Logic.
Yeah, Logic has a lot of good comments. I enjoy his comments. One of the things I notice, this is going to sound so pretentious. I wrote a comic book, so I officially am a comic book writer. Whether I'm a good one or not is up to you guys. But I've been paying attention to other people's writing, and you have very sparse. Like, there's no unnecessary dialogue. There's no unnecessary. Would you recommend other people to do, as opposed to Chris Claremont, where you could probably remove a couple of word balloons?
I can't tell other people how to write. I can tell people how I write. I have to say that anytime I look at anything I've written, I find a way to improve it by taking words out. But there's a couple of tips: is write dialogue the way people really talk, the way they really sound, so that when you read it out loud to yourself or your spouse or a friend, and you say, does that sound real to you? They say, yeah, that does sound the way people really talk. That's so important. Well, how do you do that? You just keep your ears open. I'll give you an example. I noticed that when people say, I'm going to, it sounds like omina. I'm going to go downtown and get a 6-pack of beer. So I started spelling it that way. And people noticed, they commented, this is realistic dialogue because it's phonetically correct. It's the way real people talk. That's just one tiny example. If I hear a phrase that sticks in my mind that I have not heard before, and I keep my ears open and I do eavesdrop, I'll write it down in my tablet. That's another very important
You're the
lesson.
in Starbucks listening to conversations and writing things down?
I am, and I would recommend to everybody, carry a tablet and a pen with you at all times, whether you write or not, and then write down anything you want to remember. That's what I do. Otherwise, I'd forget.
Tell me about it. I had a great idea that I couldn't wait to tell one of my friends about it. And then when I finally got to my computer, because I didn't write it down, I was like, what was that great idea? Oh, well. Just lost to the vapors. The old dirty fatty says, there goes my money. When do we get a conclusion to that triplet story?
Well, Dale, that depends on Kelsey. We are using every power in our possession to get in touch with him. We have hired a team of telepaths. We have hired a team of spelunkers.
Kelsey, I joke that he retreats into the swamps of Louisiana like Solomon Grundy or the Legion of Doom head. Just, he'll make an appearance. Kelsey and I used to do a show where we talked about comics, Two Beards, One Comic, and I haven't heard from him. He doesn't even know I was in a car accident or anything. To the point he ordered my comic. I wrote a big long note with all my contact information and everything because I don't know how to get in touch with him,
Well, we are trying to get in touch with him. He was out of communication for so long that Ethan Van Sciver sent the police to his house to find out if he died. He did answer the door, and that's funny because I've heard of another publisher who did the same thing.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't replying. This is going to sound awfully terrible, and I know somebody's going to use it against me, but he backed my book, so I wrote him a letter because I have his address. You know what I mean? Just let me know you're okay, kind of thing. So I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he's okay. I do know that he has some illness in the family that he was really, really concerned with. That's all I'm going to say because it's not my information to reveal. So Eric the Guapo, the handsome Eric, says he wants those omnibuses. Have you decided what platform you're releasing those on?
We're going to self-publish them and offer them through Baron Books initially, but if the reception is what we hope, they will be distributed via Diamond to comic shops.
Nice. And Florida Man, as funny as all get out.
Thank you, Logic. I'm working on a 4th novel, but I had to set it aside because I'm working on so much other stuff right now. Like these novels with Blaine Pardo. The first one is out. It's called Tenure. And I'm working on the 11th biker novel. I'm blazing through that. What else am I working on? Bunch of stuff.
I'm sorry to admit that I'm not familiar with the biker novels. Could you tell me what the biker novels are? I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They're my
And the
modern.
pictures
They're my
were-
modern. They're my modern noir crime, featuring a reformed motorcycle hoodlum. Josh Pratt went to prison
Okay, let me write
for
this.
atrocious assault. He met a pastor in prison who brought him around to God, and he accepted God into his life, and he gets out determined to turn his life around. The adventures are action-packed, thrilling, relevant. A lot of them are ripped from the headlines. A lot of them aren't. But if you go to Amazon and you type in Mike Barron, you'll see them. They're among the first things that'll pop up. There are 10 of them, and I think they're on sale right now from Wolfpack Press. Possibly my proudest creation. I love Josh Pratt, and people who read them love him too. They get nothing but rave reviews. It's hard to fight out there for publicity against so many competing novels. And the man's action book is such a competitive field. And when I say men, I mean our primary readers are men, and that's been proven by study after study. That doesn't mean that they're misogynistic. And in fact, Josh is in the latest book. He's planning his marriage, and we have a lot of women readers who love the books. But unless you write cozies, which are murder mysteries where Agatha Christie sits in a nicely furnished sitting room and solves the mystery with her mind, or bodice rippers, which are written specifically for women, the largest reading audience will be men, and always has been men.
Right. You're bringing up a topic that's just a sore point with me. Is just, Marvel Comics understandably wanted women readers, but there's nothing wrong with expanding your market, but at the risk of alienating your old, I'll never understand that decision. I'll never understand that.
Well, a lot of women love comics, and
Right. And then they change them, and then those women well, this is what I liked, and now.
Well, nobody likes those comics that they're turning out because women want a gripping story too, and that's the thing. If you have a message, you can deliver your message. If first of all you entertain, that's rule number one. The book has got to entertain. If you want examples of socially conscious messages in entertainment, I always point to Kill a Mockingbird and The Grapes of Wrath, which are two of the greatest and most entertaining novels you'll ever read, turned into great entertaining movies. And that's how you do it. But the first thing you do is create a compelling character that the reader cares about. And then the reader will read that story to find out how the character deals with adversity, because all these stories are about adversity. If everything was like this in the protagonist's life, was all smooth, he's got good money coming in, he never gets ruffled, there'd be no story. A story is a dynamic narrative. And by that, I mean the situation of the protagonist is constantly in flux. Sometimes he's up, sometimes he's down. He faces adversity, and how he overcomes that adversity is part of the story.
I love the way you talk about writing. I forget if you told me this or not, but do you teach writing? Do you ever?
I consult with people for a fee. And I have offered repeatedly to every con I go to teach a seminar on how to create comics. Some take me up on it, some don't. But if the ones that do take me up on it, I always get a standing ovation at the end.
I bet. Yeah. Well, why not? I mean, who else? You've been writing comics.
6 years.
A couple of years. Yeah. Like for Logic's Finest says, Captain America never sounded like a real talking person. Well, let's be realistic. Not most of comics up until like the 90s, I would say they talked weird, but I just accepted it as part of the medium. Plus, I was a kid. He sounded like a Hallmark greeting card crossed with Shakespeare, noble and lofty to a fault. Like Thor, I accept Thor talks weird. He's a god from another dimension. You know what I mean? But like Sam Wilson, the Falcon, he should talk like a guy from Harlem.
I have a panel here from Fantastic Four, which I love to quote. It's Doc Doom is facing off with Reed Richards, and Doc Doom is like this. and his legs are 4 feet apart. And Reed Richards is like this, and his legs are 5 feet apart. And Doc Doom says, "Then turn and stare in abject awe at Doom the First, the new ruler of the world." And of course, that's how Stan Lee wrote back in the day. And Stan Lee could do that because he was a great writer and he was the first one to do it. But that's how a lot of people write today, and they don't know how to do it, and it doesn't sound real. And the reader, it just rings like crushed glass in your ear when somebody else tries to do it.
Yeah, he wrote like they were like Shakespearean characters, like if whoever's played Dr. Doom in this movie, whether it's Robert Downey Jr. or whatever, if he's not overacting and raising his fist, then he ain't doing it right. I don't want a subtle Dr. Doom. If you're wearing armor, and you're a despot, I don't want to see a trade negotiation treaty movie. I want to see craziness. Yeah, Kelsey's more elusive than the Tasmanian wolf. Yes.
Marcus mentioned John D. McDonnell. I have to say that John D. McDonnell is the reason I'm writing, and that Josh Pratt is my tribute to Travis McGee.
Oh, here's the comment. Okay, I didn't realize it wasn't going down to the bottom. As long as it's stuff, yeah, okay. Logic, just because something is made for men doesn't make it sexist or toxic. Yes, absolutely. Masculinity offends feminists and nobody else. By the way, women like masculine things. Yes, I do. You think the tide is turning? Do you think there's like a cultural shift back to?
I do, but I have to say that it's not turning that much because people have always felt this way, and it's only because a certain class of person, whom I call tapeworms for want of a better term, have taken over education, entertainment, and journalism, and politics for that matter, for the last 50 years and shoved their agenda down our throat. But it's not the agenda of the normal American, and we've just had a huge course correction representative of the vast majority of Americans.
Yeah, I agree. My wife is from Canada, and she's not very political until recently, and I just kept saying this. I think that this is the elites just social engineering. Like nobody believes in this stuff, and you turn on the TV, it's like what's the word? Disillusioning and there's an exact word that I can't.
Well, people call them the media. I call them the lick spittle. The lick spittle is never going to recover from the blow they've been dealt and what they have done to themselves for the past 20 years. I mean, it's been going on for a half century, but in the past 20 years, they threw away any pretense of objectivity and simply became mouthpieces for the Democratic Party.
Absolutely. I know this is probably coming from, not having to do with that talk, but like when I hear people talk about like hate speech, like it's okay to censor. It's like either you believe in free speech or you don't believe in free speech.
Speech is violence.
Yes. Oh my God. I'll never forget, Mike. I was in Albuquerque. Me and my friends were going camping for the weekend, and we were meeting my friend Mike's girlfriend. She was pulling up for the first time, and she pulled up in this, a Lexus, Lexus car, and the bumper sticker said, "Poverty is violence." and I knew exactly what she looked like before she even came out of the car, and
Very soon.
even he was giggling, so that became like the catchphrase for the weekend. Poverty is violence. Needless to say, she never invited me to go camping again.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the Corman Fantastic Four? Yeah, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's the only accurate Fantastic Four movie.
Never seen it. I'll try and catch it one of these days. I bet you I can find it on TV somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
That's how I watched it. Yeah. I don't know.
That's how I saw most of Sherlock Holmes.
Fantastic Four is still my favorite mainstream superhero comic, and I feel like a battered ex-girlfriend. Maybe the next one will be good. Maybe.
Just read the old ones.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing. Literally, I call it the Fantastic Four Project. I'm trying to reread all of the Fantastic Fours, because I bought them out of order because you buy them when you can, especially the expensive one. I walked away from Marvel Comics after Civil War and was done with the MCU after Endgame. By the way, Winter Soldier is the best MCU film, but they're mostly black. Yeah. I can't Can't argue. I think the Marvel movies.
I agree with him. I think that Winter Soldier is the best Marvel movie.
They took it seriously.
Yeah.
That like there was not. If I recall, the movies kind of blended together 10 years later, but there was a couple of humorous quirks. But it was a serious movie. They took it seriously, and you had a feeling that there was stakes. And when I watched Thor Ragnarok, I didn't believe that there was any serious stakes in that movie. It didn't take itself. It was like watching a Looney Tune.
That's right. If a movie doesn't take itself seriously, why should I?
Absolutely.
No, and I'll give a pass to comedies if they're funny, but most comedies aren't funny.
Which brings me back to Florida Man. Florida Man, your comic is actually funny, and I've said this to you before that for me, whenever I see somebody's making a funny comic, I don't know. Comics mostly aren't funny, with the exception of Mad Magazine. But Florida Man, I like Florida Man because it's not just puns. And it's
never puns. Puns are the lowest form of humor. The highest form of humor is the juxtaposition of the sacred and the profane. And if you want to wonder what I mean by that, I'd have to give you some examples. And I can't give them to you off the top of my head. But there are situations that rise organically out of the story where you hear something absurd presented straight-faced, and everybody knows it's ridiculous, but the people in the movie are taking it seriously. I really can't think of any examples.
Did you see the Evil Dead 2?
No.
Or, Evil Dead 2, Bruce Campbell is a guy working at Walmart, gets sucked into the evil dimension, and he's fighting zombies, and it's all medieval. And the director was like, everybody else has to be super serious and take this as threatening as possible. So when Bruce Willis is quippy and everything, it's actually funny. Like one this zombie woman falls down in front of him, and everybody's like, "Forsooth, she is gone," And Bruce Campbell goes, "It's a trick. Get an axe." And just like that whole absurdity, you just crack up laughing. I got to recognize a super chat because I get them like once every 6 months.
Good.
Anyone doing Sherlock Holmes justice has got my respect. There you go. Keep up the good work, mate. Cheers to John. If you could talk with crowds and keep your virtual walk with kings and not lose the common touch. I don't really. Mike Barron is the closest to a king I'm ever going to get. And he's only a baron. So
I'm lucky to be here.
We're all lucky to be here, especially after the year I've had. They obstinately believe if they control all culture. Yes, and you could tell utopia.
No, they don't. They don't believe in an egalitarian utopia. That's just the crap they feed the dumbos so that they can get more power for themselves and rape the public for all the money they can.
Yes, that's what the leading thing. But then we got the useful idiots that I'm working with. And I keep trying to remind them, what are we progressing to? And they say utopia, and I go, utopia literally translate as no place. It's translating into nothing. So we're progressing into non-existence or nothing. But then
as Breitbart pointed out, politics is downstream from culture, and the left recognized this many years ago. But there are a bunch of us who are working to change the culture, and I'm one of them. And Blaine Pardo, my writing partner, is another. And that's why we did this 10-year novel. It's the first in a series. We're already most of the way through the second novel. It's about a history professor at a college in Portland, where else, who refuses to use a student's preferred pronoun and how it destroys his life.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm killing a fruit fly.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to see the corpse? I don't know
if
it will show up. It's so tiny.
There's nothing like a little bit of death to spike up in the conversation. Thor movies at this point, all the Marvel movies at this point.
I would rather talk about movies that I love.
Right. Any chance of a Florida Man Badger crossover?
Tony, it's really funny that you mentioned that. All I can say is wait till you see the Florida Man 3 graphic novel. That's all I can say. Yeah. And I'll just add this teaser. Gary takes a job as an orderly at a mental hospital.
Okay. I think that's all you have to say. Yeah. I think I could figure out the rest. Yeah. Aldous Huxley warned us about utopia. It's a lot. Well, again, the word utopia translates as no place. Light humor isn't for me. Give me straightforward humor or serious drama. Light humor and endless sight gags. Like the airplane movies. What were they? The Zucker brothers. Like that was so big for a while, and then it just stopped. I forget who said it, but comedy doesn't travel well over distance and time.
Well, that's not true.
Oh yeah,
If you haven't seen the Marx Brothers Duck Soup or W.C. Fields' The Bank Dick or any number of movies those guys put out, humor is universal and timeless. But that's real humor. Those guys really understood it. And one thing that Fields understood was that most humor is based on tragedy. Because he's got this one short where a guy's working in a drugstore and he sees this blind man trying to cross the street with a cane. And the blind man is waving the cane in front of him the whole way to make sure he doesn't strike anything. And Fields is the clerk, and you can just see him tightening up because he knows what's going to happen. What happens is the blind man comes to the door of the apothecary and smashes it to pieces and then walks in and says, "Oh, no, you made fun of a blind man." Well, unfortunately, all humor is based on tragedy. It's our natural reaction to things that we don't wish to process as painful.
Yeah. Alan Alda said that comedy is tragedy plus time.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm quoting Alan Alda because that guy. Yeah, I stand corrected. Everybody in the chat's telling me I'm wrong. Stage Blazing Saddles is still hilarious after 50 years. I recommend anybody, you youngins in the chat who have not seen Blazing Saddles, put your seatbelts on and watch this movie, and watch it with somebody under 20 years old and watch their face explode. I watched the history of the world with my nephews last 2 Easters ago, and they just were horrified at all the jokes in that movie. Like they never heard of it. And of course, Eric the Guapo is absolutely right. Farts will always be funny. Even the ancient Greeks knew it, and we know it today. I could talk about a masterpiece that is Tenet over any Marvel film. Yeah, intricate and complex. Yep.
The Blues Brothers does have some real humor in it. Princess Bride has some real humor in it.
Yeah. Princess Bride is a timeless classic. People get mad when people make fun of midgets. Midget cavemen were called Neander Smalls. I thought this was a serious comment, and then you got me at the end, Grey Wolf. Nothing like it. But what I was trying to say about Florida Man is the situation creates the comedy, which I love.
That's right. Absolutely.
Would you say it's like the British always like they it's a long setup with a big payoff, whereas the Americans it's kind of just like a funny line.
Well,
they're not generalizing.
The kind of scattergun approach that you see in Blazing Saddles or the airplane movies is uniquely American, and they make no pretense of presenting a serious story. They're not trying to be serious, and we're not expected to take them seriously. We're just in it for the laughs. It's like a comedy skit. They stumble from one gag to the next. And,
right.
Most of the gags are pretty obvious, and they're not that funny. But I don't begrudge those movies their success. They can't make them today because you've got a bunch of censors sitting there saying, "That's not funny." They keep saying you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today, and that's absolutely true. But I did watch it recently, and it's not funny. It's just one outrageous presentation after another. Whereas real humor rises organically out of the situation. A couple of films that I would recommend are His Girl Friday with Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell, and Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman. Those are very funny movies because the humor rises naturally out of the situation. In case you don't know, Tootsie is about Dustin Hoffman is an acting teacher, a great acting teacher who can never get any acting jobs. So he reinvents himself as a woman. And this was made like 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's very convincing. And the situations he gets into are honestly funny. It's a laugh out loud movie.
Yeah. I would you say that comedy, to write comedy, it's timing, and
ask me what the secret to comedy is.
Mike Barron,
timing
to comedy. Okay. Same with horror, right? Would you say horror is timing also?
Oh, absolutely. And sound. I mean, you don't appreciate how effective sound is in a horror movie unless you're aware of it. But that's the huge advantage movies have over any other form when it comes to horror, is they control not only the pacing and the visuals, but the sound. There's a movie called The Haunting. The original is in black and white, and it's absolutely terrifying. There's not a shred of gore. There's not a monster in it. It's all done with suggestion and sound.
Have you seen on YouTube? They'll take scenes of movies and erase just the music. Like one of the famous ones is the Star Wars, when they're getting the medals at the end, and they just remove all the score, and it's just amplified footsteps, and it's so awkward. What you were saying, like the sound plays such
music also plays a tremendous part in our movies.
What does Logic say over here? To Catch a Thief is a classic example of great storytelling and very light humor. Cary Grant is awesome. I didn't see that one. I got to see that.
I saw it once a million years ago. I should watch it again.
I agree. Horror and sound of yeah, babe. We need to talk. That's real life. That's real life horror, honey. We need to sit down. We need to talk. All right, Mike. Is there anything you want to say before we close this down?
Well, no, except to remind people to always carry a tablet and a pen with them wherever they go.
And a towel, if anybody gets that reference. And I'll remind you that Sherlock Holmes Leviathan, I can't wait for this. I love Sherlock Holmes.
Thanks, John.
I especially love Captain Nemo. So you got Indiegogo, you got Fund My Comic, you got Kickstarter, you got no excuse. You go to the platform that you like.
And even if you think, well, I'm not really a detective guy, if you like comics, you're going to love this.
Yeah, it's funny that you see, because Captain Nemo is like a prototype superhero villain, whichever your perspective is on him. You know, I'm fascinated because he's morally gray and flawed and cool at the same time. I just love the character. Buy Mike's book and John's book. So that's right, I have a comic book too. It's on Fund My Comic also. So you could go to Fund My Comic and get Mike's book first. I defer to
What's the name of your book?
Heroic Tales. It's on Fund My Comic. It's a superhero book. It's a loving homage to Bronze Age Marvel comics. You know, Pat Broderick does the cover. I got a Michael T. Gilbert. You'll see, Mike, when you go on you're gonna fall in love with it. It's so good.
Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot, everybody. And you're going to be on Michael Bancroft in an hour.
That's right.
Yeah. So Mike's got to get some coffee. I know he's an early bird like myself. And then at 8:30, I'm going to be doing It's Clobber Time, Plastic Man versus Mr. Fantastic. Open invite, whoever wants to come in and geek out about comics. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot, Mike. Love talking to you. Big fan. Bye-bye, everybody.